A
I'm so
single
proud of
millionaire
both of
dad and
you.
That's a
CEO
good
went on a
girl.
blind
That's a
date
good
as a
girl.
favor for a friend, but
Thank
fell in
you.
love with a poor girl at first sight. A beautiful love story. If you're hearing it for the first time, please don't leave. I promise it will satisfy you. Trust me. God bless you. I love you. Sometimes the greatest love stories begin with the simplest mistakes. Jackie Robinson had built an empire worth $300 million, commanded boardrooms filled with the most powerful executives in the country, and could buy anything his heart desired, except the one thing that had eluded him for 7 years: genuine love. Tonight, as rain cascaded down the windows of his penthouse office, he stared at his reflection and wondered if agreeing to Tyler's blind date was the biggest mistake of his successful life. "You need someone real, Jackie," his best friend had insisted over lunch earlier that week. "Someone who'll love you for who you are, not what you own." Tyler had arranged everything at Milano's restaurant, the most exclusive dining establishment in the city. But as Jackie stood outside in the rain, checking the address on his phone, doubt crept through his heart like winter frost. Every woman he'd met in the past 7 years had either wanted his money, his status, or treated his daughter Babe like an inconvenience to be managed by nannies. The thought of his precious 7-year-old daughter waiting at home with their housekeeper made his chest tighten. Babe had asked him that morning, with her innocent brown eyes so much like her late mother's, "Daddy, are you going to find me a new mommy who will love me like the mommies in my storybooks?" Jackie had promised her he'd try, but standing here now, soaked by the rain, he felt like he was betraying that promise by going through the motions of another meaningless encounter. Confused by the similar street names, Jackie pushed open the door of what he thought was Milano's, but found himself in Rosemary's Cafe, a humble, warmly lit place that smelled of fresh coffee and homemade pie. The contrast couldn't have been starker from the marble and crystal he'd expected. "You look like you've been caught in a storm," came a voice like music, gentle and concerned. Jackie turned and felt his world shift on its axis. The woman approaching him with a towel had the most beautiful smile he'd ever seen. Not the practiced, calculating smiles he was accustomed to, but something pure and radiant that seemed to light up the entire cafe. Her chestnut hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, and her uniform was clean but worn from honest work. "I think I'm lost," Jackie admitted, accepting the towel gratefully. "I was looking for Milano's." "That's about 3 blocks down, but honestly, their coffee tastes like bitter disappointment," she said, with a laugh that made Jackie's heart skip. "I'm Serena, and if you don't mind waiting out this storm, I promise our coffee will warm your soul instead of burning it." "Jackie," he replied, extending his hand. The moment their fingers touched, electricity shot through him. Not the calculated chemistry of attraction, but something deeper, truer. "And I think getting lost might be exactly what I needed." Serena guided him to a corner booth, the kind of cozy spot that invited intimate conversation. As she brought him steaming coffee in a mismatched mug, Jackie found himself studying her movements. Graceful, despite her exhaustion, kind to every customer, treating everyone with the same genuine care. "So, what brings you out on a night like this?" Serena asked, sliding into the seat across from him during her break. "A friend's attempt at matchmaking," Jackie said honestly. "He thinks I need someone real in my life." "And do you?" Serena's eyes held no judgment, only curiosity. Jackie paused, struck by the simple directness of her question. In his world, every conversation was layered with ulterior motives and hidden agendas. "I have a daughter," he said carefully. "She's 7, and she's been asking for a mother who will love her genuinely. I'm starting to think that kind of love doesn't exist anymore." Serena's expression softened with understanding. "Children have a way of seeing straight to people's hearts, don't they?" "What's her name?" "Babe. She's everything to me." "Babe," Serena repeated, and the way she said his daughter's name, with such tenderness, made Jackie's throat tighten with emotion. "That's beautiful." She must be very special. She is. She loves flowers, storytelling, and believes in magic. Serena's face lit up with joy. I love flowers too. I've been saving every penny to open my own flower shop someday. I want to bring beauty into people's lives, especially during their hardest moments. Flowers have this incredible power to say what words can't. As the storm raged outside, Jackie found himself sharing things he'd never told anyone. His fears about raising Babe alone, his longing for a love that wasn't built on his bank account, his dreams of giving his daughter a real family. Serena listened with her whole heart, her hand occasionally reaching across the table to touch his when emotion overwhelmed his voice. You know what I think? Serena said as the cafe began to empty around them. I think love finds us when we're not wearing masks. When we're just ourselves, vulnerable and real. What about you? Jackie asked. What kind of love are you looking for? Serena's cheeks flushed pink. Someone who sees my heart before my circumstances. Someone who would choose me every day, not because I'm perfect, but because I'm perfectly imperfect for them. And someone who would love any children we might have, or already have, with their whole soul. Jackie felt his heart race. This woman, who barely knew him, was already thinking about loving his daughter. That's exactly what every father dreams of hearing. Hours passed like minutes. Serena shared her dreams of filling the world with flowers, her belief that every person deserved beauty in their lives, and her hope that someday she'd have a family of her own to cherish. Jackie was mesmerized by her optimism, despite her obvious financial struggles, her dignity in the face of hardship, and the way she spoke about love like it was the most precious treasure in existence. I should let you get back to work, Jackie said reluctantly as the cafe's closing time approached. Actually, my shift ended an hour ago, Serena admitted with a shy smile. I just didn't want this conversation to end. Jackie's heart soared. Neither did I. As they prepared to leave, Serena hesitated at the door. Jackie? I know this might sound crazy since we just met, but would you like to meet again? Maybe somewhere we can talk more? I would love nothing more, Jackie said, meaning every word. Tomorrow? Tomorrow, Serena agreed, and when she smiled, Jackie knew his life had just changed forever. Walking away from the cafe, Jackie realized he hadn't thought about his wealth, his status, or his business empire once during their entire conversation. For the first time in years, he'd simply been a man talking to a woman who made his heart sing. But as he drove home to his mansion, guilt gnawed at him. He was already lying to the most honest person he'd ever met. How long could he keep pretending to be ordinary when everything about his life was extraordinary? What Jackie didn't know was that 3 blocks away, his original blind date was still waiting at Milano's, and the woman who would change his world forever was about to discover a secret that would test their newfound connection in ways neither could imagine. Chapter 2. Growing Love and Hidden Truths. Love grows in the spaces between heartbeats, in stolen glances, and in the way someone says your name like it's poetry. 1 month had passed since that magical night at Rosemary's Cafe, and Jackie Robinson found himself living a double life he'd never imagined. Every morning, he'd conduct million-dollar board meetings with the precision of a military general, but every evening he transformed into simply Jackie, a man desperately in love with a woman who saw straight through to his soul. Their second date had been a walk through Riverside Park, where Serena had stopped to admire every flower bed, explaining the meanings behind different blooms with the passion of someone who truly understood beauty. Daisies represent new beginnings, she had whispered, tucking one behind her ear, and sunflowers always turn toward the light, no matter how dark the world gets. Jackie had watched her, mesmerized, thinking that she was his sunflower, the light he'd been unconsciously turning toward his entire life. Now, as he knocked on the door of her modest apartment building, his heart raced with anticipation. Tonight was different. Tonight, he was bringing the most precious part of his world to meet the woman who had captured his heart. "Daddy, is this where the flower lady lives?" Babe asked, her small hand nestled trustingly in his. She wore her favorite yellow dress, the one that made her look like sunshine personified. "Yes, sweetheart. And remember, her name is Serena." "Serena," Babe repeated, tasting the name. "It sounds like music, Daddy." Jackie smiled, his daughter's innocent wisdom never ceasing to amaze him. "It does, doesn't it?" Serena opened the door, and Jackie's breath caught as it did every time he saw her. She wore a simple lavender sundress that brought out the warmth in her eyes, and her hair fell in soft waves around her shoulders. But it was her expression, nervous excitement mixed with genuine joy, that made his heart swell. "You must be Babe," Serena said, kneeling to the child's level with the natural grace of someone who understood little hearts. "Your daddy has told me so many wonderful things about you." Babe studied Serena with the serious consideration only children possess. "You're even prettier than Daddy said, and he said you were the most beautiful woman in the whole world." "Babe," Jackie said, his cheeks warming with embarrassment. But Serena laughed, a sound like silver bells that made both father and daughter smile. "Well, your daddy is very kind. Would you like to see something special?" She led them into her tiny apartment, and Jackie's heart clenched at the stark difference between this humble space and his sprawling mansion. But then he saw what Serena was showing them. Her entire living room had been transformed into a garden paradise. Flowers in repurposed jars and containers created a rainbow of colors, filling the space with natural perfume and life. "Oh!" Babe gasped, her eyes wide with wonder. "It's like a fairy garden." "I grow them all myself," Serena said proudly. "Every penny I save goes towards seeds and soil. Someday I'll have a real shop, but for now, this is my kingdom." Jackie watched his daughter explore the makeshift garden with pure delight, and his love for Serena deepened beyond measure. Despite having so little, she had created magic. She had turned poverty into beauty, hardship into hope. "Serena, can you teach me about flowers?" Babe asked, her voice filled with excitement. "I would love to, sweetheart. Here, let me show you how to braid jasmine." Serena sat cross-legged on the floor, and Babe immediately settled beside her, completely at ease. Jackie leaned against the doorframe, watching the two most important women in his life connect with an ease that took his breath away. Serena's patience was infinite. She explained each flower's care with the detail of a beloved teacher, her hands gentle as she guided Babe's small fingers. "The secret," Serena whispered conspiratorially to Babe, "is that flowers respond to love. They grow stronger when you speak kindly to them and believe in their beauty." "Like people?" Babe asked with startling insight. "Exactly like people," Serena confirmed, and her eyes met Jackie's over his daughter's head. The look they shared was electric with understanding and growing love. As the evening progressed, Jackie cooked dinner in Serena's tiny kitchen, simple pasta that tasted better than any five-star meal because of the company. They ate by candlelight, not for romance, but because one of Serena's lamps had broken and she couldn't afford to replace it yet. "Tell me a story, Serena," Babe requested as they finished eating. Without hesitation, Serena launched into an enchanting tale about a brave little princess who saved her kingdom using only the power of flowers and kindness. Jackie found himself as captivated as his daughter, watching Serena's expressive face and graceful gestures bring the story to life. After Babe fell asleep on the small couch, curled up like a kitten with one of Serena's soft throws, Jackie and Serena stepped onto the tiny balcony overlooking the city. "She's incredible, Jackie," Serena said softly, her voice thick with emotion. "You've raised an angel." "She's been asking for a mother who would love her completely," Jackie admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. "Tonight, watching you two together. I think she's found her. Serena turned to face him, tears glistening in her eyes. Jackie, I have to tell you something. From the moment I met you, I felt like I'd been searching for you my whole life without knowing it. And babe, she's not just your daughter to me. She feels like the child I've always dreamed of loving. Jackie cupped her face in his hands, thumbs gently wiping away her tears. Serena Rose, you beautiful, incredible woman. You've given me hope I thought I'd lost forever. Their first kiss was tender, full of promise and dreams yet to be fulfilled. When they broke apart, Serena rested her forehead against his. I love you, Jackie, she whispered. I know it's soon, but I love you with everything I am. I love you too, Jackie replied, and he meant it with every fiber of his being, more than I ever thought possible. As he carried sleeping Babe to his car later that night, Jackie's heart was full to bursting. Serena had packed a small bouquet of jasmine for Babe to take home, and the sweet fragrance filled the vehicle. Daddy? Babe murmured sleepily. Is Serena going to be my new mommy? Jackie's throat tightened with emotion. Would you like that, princess? Yes, Babe said with absolute certainty. She makes me feel safe and happy, and she makes you smile the way you used to smile in the pictures with Mommy. That night, after tucking Babe into her bed surrounded by Serena's flowers, Jackie stood in his vast master suite and felt more alone than ever. The contrast between Serena's cramped but love-filled apartment and his cold, expensive mansion was jarring. He pulled out his phone to text Serena goodnight, but hesitated. How long could he keep living this lie? How long before she discovered that Jackie, the business consultant, was actually Jackie Robinson, CEO of Robinson Enterprises, one of the wealthiest men in the state? The weight of deception pressed down on him like a physical force. He'd built their love on honesty and genuine connection, but the foundation was cracked with his lies about who he really was. Meanwhile, across the city, Serena lay in her small bed, staring at the ceiling with a heart full of joy and confusion. Jackie was unlike any man she'd ever met, kind, devoted to his daughter, and seemingly uninterested in the superficial things that drove most people. But small details nagged at her. The expensive watch he'd forgotten to remove, the way his hands were too soft for someone in consulting, and the subtle authority in his voice when he'd called for a taxi. She'd fallen completely, irrevocably in love with him and Babe, but something whispered that the man she adored was hiding something significant. As she drifted towards sleep, Serena made a silent promise to herself. Whatever Jackie's secret was, she would love him through it. After all, everyone deserved to be loved for who they truly were, not who they pretended to be. But neither Jackie nor Serena could have predicted that someone was already watching their blossoming love story, someone who would stop at nothing to destroy the happiness they'd found in each other's arms. Chapter 3. The Perfect Deception. Sometimes the people we trust most are the ones sharpening knives behind our backs. Jackie's world crumbled as he stared at the fabricated evidence spread across his mahogany desk. 3 months of perfect love, of watching Serena nurture his daughter with genuine devotion, of believing he'd found his soulmate, all of it now tainted by Richard's poisonous revelations. "Look at this one," Richard said, pointing to a printed email that appeared to be from Serena to an unknown contact. "She's been updating someone about your schedule, your habits, even Babe's routine. This isn't love, Jackie. This is a long-term con." Jackie's hands trembled as he read the forged words that seemed to be in Serena's voice. "He's completely devoted to his daughter. The child is my way in. Once I'm established as her mother figure, everything else will follow." "No," Jackie whispered, his voice breaking. "Serena would never write this. She loves Babe genuinely. I've seen it in her eyes, felt it in her actions." "People are excellent actors when millions are at stake," Richard replied with false sympathy. "I know this hurts, but you have to protect yourself and Babe." Jackie stood abruptly, pacing to the window where the city stretched endlessly below. His reflection stared back, a man who'd built an empire but couldn't protect his own heart from deception. "What do you suggest I do?" Jackie asked, his voice hollow. "Test her again. But this time, make it count." That evening, Jackie arrived at Serena's apartment with roses and a heart full of conflicting emotions. She opened the door, wearing a simple blue dress that made her eyes shine like sapphires, her face lighting up with pure joy at seeing him. "Jackie, you're early again. I love these surprises." She stood on her tiptoes to kiss him, and Jackie felt his resolve wavering. How could this woman, whose love felt as real as sunshine, be deceiving him? "Where's my little flower fairy?" Serena asked, looking past him for Babe. "Sleep over at her friend Emma's house," Jackie replied, watching Serena's face carefully. "Oh, she'll have so much fun." "Emma's mother called me yesterday to ask about Babe's favorite flowers for their garden party. Isn't that sweet?" Jackie's heart lurched. How did other parents have Serena's number? How deep did her integration into their lives go? They settled on her small couch, Serena curled against his side like she belonged there. Her apartment smelled of jasmine and fresh bread. She'd been baking for hours, preparing his favorite dessert. "Serena," Jackie began carefully, "I've been thinking about your flower shop dream." "Have you?" Her eyes sparkled with interest. "What if I told you I could make it happen immediately? What if I could give you everything you've ever wanted, a beautiful shop, the finest flowers, no more struggling or waiting?" Serena pulled back to look at him, confusion clouding her features. "Jackie, what's brought this on? We talked about this before. But what if I insisted? What if I said that loving you means I want to take care of you completely?" "Then I'd say you don't understand me at all," Serena replied firmly, hurt creeping into her voice. "Jackie, I don't want to be taken care of like a pet or a possession. I want to be your partner, your equal. I want to build something beautiful with these hands, to earn my place in this world." She stood, moving to her kitchen window where her herb garden flourished in repurposed containers. "Do you see these plants? I started them from seeds with soil I bought one bag at a time. They mean everything to me because they represent my dreams taking root. If someone just handed me a full garden, it wouldn't be mine, it would be theirs. But accepting help from someone who loves you is different from being rescued," Serena interrupted, turning back to face him. "Jackie, I want to grow alongside you, not in your shadow. I want our love to be about two people choosing each other every day, not about one person saving the other." Jackie felt his chest tighten with emotion. Everything Richard had suggested, that Serena was after his money, crumbled in the face of her unwavering principles. "You're right," he said softly, standing to join her by the window. "I'm sorry. Sometimes I just want to give you the world." "You already have," Serena whispered, stepping into his arms. "You've given me love, and you've trusted me with Babe's heart. That's worth more than any amount of money." As they held each other, Jackie felt shame burning through him for doubting this incredible woman. But the fabricated evidence nagged at him like a splinter he couldn't remove. "Serena, can I ask you something? Always. Have you ever researched me online? Looked up my background?" Serena laughed softly. "Jackie, I barely have time to sleep, let alone spend hours on the internet. Besides, I'd rather learn about you from your own lips, your own heart. The internet can't tell me how you hum while making Babe's breakfast, or the way your eyes light up when you talk about your dreams." Her honesty was like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. Jackie pulled her closer, breathing in her familiar jasmine scent. "I love you," he murmured against her hair, "more than I've ever loved anyone." "And I love you," Serena replied. "All of you, even the parts you haven't shown me yet." That night, as Jackie drove home through the quiet streets, his phone buzzed with a text from Richard. "Did you test her?" What did she say? Jackie stared at the message, then deleted it without responding. Serena had passed every test with flying colors, proving her love was pure and selfless. But a small voice in his head whispered questions he couldn't quite silence. Meanwhile, Serena stood on her balcony, staring up at the stars and making a decision that would change everything. She pulled out her phone and dialed the number she'd been given weeks ago by a private investigator who'd approached her at work. "This is Serena Rose," she said quietly. "I'm ready to know the truth about Jackie Robinson." What she discovered in the next hour would test her love beyond anything she'd imagined. Jackie wasn't just successful, he was one of the most powerful men in the entire state. Robinson Enterprises owned half the businesses she'd ever heard of. The man she'd fallen in love with could buy her entire neighborhood without blinking. But what broke her heart wasn't his wealth. It was the realization that he'd been lying to her for months, presenting himself as someone ordinary when he was anything but. As Serena sat surrounded by her modest flowers, holding printouts of articles about Jackie's empire, tears streamed down her face. Not because he was rich, but because he hadn't trusted her enough to tell her the truth. The next morning brought a confrontation that would shake the foundation of their love. Jackie arrived at the cafe where they'd first met, his heart heavy with the decision to finally reveal everything. But when Serena walked in, her eyes were red from crying, and she carried a folder of her own. "We need to talk," they said simultaneously, then stared at each other across the table where their love story had begun. Neither realized that Richard Montgomery was watching from across the street, his plan unfolding perfectly. The seeds of doubt had been planted, the lies had taken root, and now all he had to do was wait for their love to destroy itself. Chapter 4. Worlds Collide. The cruelest betrayals come wrapped in the ribbons of friendship, delivered by hands we thought would never harm us. Jackie's business empire demanded his attention at the worst possible moment. While his heart ached for Serena across an ocean, he sat in boardrooms in London, mechanically approving deals worth millions, while his thoughts remained fixed on jasmine-scented hair and a smile that could heal his soul. "Sir, the Tokyo representatives are waiting," his assistant reminded him gently. Jackie nodded absently, checking his phone for the 100th time that day. No messages from Serena. For 5 days, silence had stretched between them like an unbridgeable chasm, and each hour away from her felt like a year of suffering. Back home, Serena moved through her days like a ghost of herself. The morning sickness that should have brought joy now served as a constant reminder of the secret she carried. Jackie's child growing inside her, while their love lay in ruins around them. "You've been crying again," her neighbor Mrs. Patterson observed, as Serena tended her flower garden with unusual aggression, pulling weeds like they were personal enemies. "I'm fine," Serena lied, her hands gentle despite her inner turmoil as she coaxed new blooms from reluctant stems. "Child, I've been watching you for months light up like Christmas morning every time that handsome man visited. Now you look like winter itself. What happened?" Serena's facade cracked. "He's not who I thought he was. And maybe I'm not who he thought I was either." Mrs. Patterson studied her with wise eyes. "Love isn't about being perfect, honey. It's about being real. And sometimes real gets messy before it gets beautiful." That afternoon brought an unexpected visitor. Richard Montgomery stood at Serena's apartment door, immaculate in his expensive suit, wearing a smile that didn't reach his cold eyes. "Miss Rose? I'm Richard Montgomery, Jackie's business partner and oldest friend." Serena's heart leapt with hope. "Is Jackie okay? Is he back from his trip?" "He's fine, but that's actually why I'm here." Richard stepped into her apartment without invitation, his gaze sweeping dismissively over her humble surroundings. "We need to discuss your relationship with him." "I don't understand." Richard's smile turned predatory. "Jackie sent me to handle a delicate situation. You see, his world, our world, operates differently than yours. There are expectations, standards, social requirements that someone of your background simply can't meet. Serena's spine stiffened. Excuse me? Jackie cares about you, but he's realized this relationship isn't sustainable. The social differences, the financial gap, the way his daughter needs stability with someone from an appropriate background. It's all too much. That's not true, Serena said firmly, though doubt crept into her voice. Jackie loves me. Babe loves me. Does he? Then why did he ask me to handle this conversation instead of having it himself? Richard pulled out an envelope thick with cash. He wanted to make sure you were taken care of. $50,000 should help you start your flower shop and move on with your life. Serena stared at the envelope like it was a poisonous snake. You're lying. Am I? Think about it, Miss Rose. Has Jackie ever taken you to his real home, introduced you to his friends, brought you into his actual world? You've been a secret for 6 months because he's embarrassed by the gap between your lives. Each word hit Serena like a physical blow. It was true. She'd never seen where Jackie really lived, never met anyone from his business life, never been part of his world beyond their private moments. He's been living a fantasy with you, Richard continued ruthlessly, playing house with someone safe and temporary while he searches for someone appropriate to be Babe's stepmother and his wife. Someone from his own social class. Stop, Serena whispered, her hand instinctively moving to protect her still flat stomach. Take the money, Miss Rose. It's more than generous, and it will allow you to disappear gracefully before this gets more complicated. Get out! Serena's voice was barely audible, but it carried steel. Get out of my home right now. Richard smiled coldly. Think about my offer. Jackie will be back tomorrow, and he'll expect an answer. After he left, Serena collapsed onto her couch, surrounded by the flowers that suddenly felt like mockeries of her dreams. Her phone buzzed with a text from Jackie. Coming home tomorrow. I love you. We need to talk about our future. Their future. Serena's hand moved to her stomach again, where their child grew. A child whose father might not want her in his real world, whose father might see her as an embarrassment to his empire. That night, Serena made the hardest decision of her life. She would give Jackie one chance to prove Richard wrong. She would tell him about the pregnancy and see if his love was strong enough to overcome the social barriers Richard claimed were insurmountable. But first, she needed to know if Jackie truly wanted her in his real world, or if she'd been living in a beautiful dream that was never meant to last. The next evening, Jackie stood outside Serena's apartment building, his heart heavy with guilt and hope in equal measure. He'd spent the entire flight home planning how to apologize, how to explain his deception, how to convince her that his love was real even if his identity had been false. He climbed the familiar stairs, jasmine and roses in hand, rehearsing the words that would hopefully heal the wounds his lies had created. But when he reached her door, he found it slightly ajar, and through the crack, he could hear Serena on the phone. I can't do this anymore, she was saying, her voice thick with tears. The money, the lies, pretending to be someone I'm not, it's destroying me. Jackie's blood turned to ice. I know he cares about me, but caring isn't enough when our worlds are so different. Maybe it's better if I just take what he's offering and disappear before this gets worse. The flowers fell from Jackie's numb fingers as Richard's words echoed in his mind. She's been playing you from the beginning. Jackie backed away from the door, his heart shattering into pieces. He'd been right to doubt, right to test her. Richard had been protecting him from a love that was never real. What Jackie didn't hear was the rest of Serena's conversation with her sister. But I love him so much it's killing me. I love him and Babe and the baby I'm carrying. I just don't know if love is enough to bridge the gap between his world and mine. As Jackie drove away into the night, his phone buzzed with a message from Richard. Emergency board meeting tomorrow. The Tokyo deal needs your immediate attention. Don't let personal distractions ruin everything you've built. Serena waited by her door until midnight, clutching the pregnancy test that would have changed everything, her heart breaking a little more with each passing minute. The man she loved, the father of her unborn child, had promised to come home to her, but instead, she was left alone with flowers that suddenly felt like grave markers for their dead relationship. Neither Jackie nor Serena realized that Richard Montgomery had orchestrated every misunderstanding, every doubt, every moment of pain, and his masterpiece of destruction was only just beginning. Chapter 5. The Humiliation and Betrayal. The deepest scars are carved not by enemies, but by the realization that love was never mutual. Jackie returned from London with his heart full of hope and determination. The international merger had been successful, but more importantly, the week away had crystallized his priorities with perfect clarity. He loved Serena Rose with every breath in his body, and he was ready to risk everything, his reputation, his social standing, even his business relationships, to build a life with her. "Daddy!" Babe launched herself into his arms the moment he walked through the mansion's front door. "I missed you so much." "Did you bring Serena a present from London?" "I brought her something better than a present, Princess. I brought her the truth and a promise." Babe's eyes widened with excitement. "Are you going to marry her? Are you going to give me a little brother or sister?" Jackie's heart swelled at his daughter's innocent joy. "Would you like that? More than anything in the whole world. Serena makes us a real family, Daddy. When she's here, everything feels like it's supposed to." That evening, Jackie stood outside Serena's apartment building, rehearsing the words that would hopefully repair the damage his deception had caused. He'd brought jasmine flowers, her favorites, and a ring that had belonged to his grandmother, simple and elegant, like the woman he wanted to spend his life with. But when he knocked on her door, Mrs. Patterson answered instead, her face grave with concern. "She's gone, son," the elderly woman said softly. "Left 3 days ago with just a suitcase and her most precious flowers. Wouldn't say where she was going, but she was crying like her heart was shattered." "Gone?" Jackie's world tilted dangerously. "That's impossible. I was supposed to come back to her. We were supposed to talk about our future. She got some fancy invitation to a party at your hotel. Came back that same night looking like she'd seen a ghost. Packed her things and left the next morning." "What invitation? What party?" Jackie's mind raced with confusion and growing dread. Mrs. Patterson handed him an elegant invitation, the same design as the Robinson Enterprises charity gala he'd hosted the week before. But this one had Serena's name on it, with a personal note he'd never written. "I never sent this," Jackie whispered, his hands shaking as he read Richard's forged handwriting. "Mrs. Patterson, what happened at the gala? Was Serena there?" "She was so excited, poor child. Spent her last money on a dress, talked about how you were finally ready to share your real world with her. But she came home destroyed. Said she finally understood that she was never meant to be part of your life." Jackie felt his knees nearly buckle. Richard had orchestrated this. Richard had invited Serena to witness his speech about Catherine, had arranged for her to hear the cruel comments of his social circle, had made sure she felt the full weight of her supposed inadequacy. "Where did she go?" "Wouldn't tell me. Said she needed to start over somewhere you'd never find her." Jackie spent the next month searching desperately. He hired private investigators, called every flower shop in neighboring cities, checked bus and train records. But Serena had vanished as completely as morning mist, taking with her the light that had transformed his grey world into something beautiful. Babe grew increasingly inconsolable. She stopped eating her favorite foods, refused to play with her toys, and cried herself to sleep every night calling for her flower mama. "Where is she, Daddy?" Babe asked one evening, her small face streaked with tears. "Why doesn't Serena come home anymore?" "I don't know, Princess," Jackie admitted, holding his daughter close as his own tears finally fell. "I made terrible mistakes and now she's gone. But you love her, more than life itself. And she loves us. I know she does. She told me every day." "Then why did she leave?" Jackie's voice broke with anguish, but it was Richard who answered from the doorway, having let himself in with the spare key he'd possessed for years. "Because she was never who you thought she was, Jackie. I tried to warn you." "You," Jackie said, sudden understanding dawning like a terrible sunrise. "You invited her to the gala. You orchestrated this." "I protected you from making the biggest mistake of your life," Richard replied coolly. "That woman was using you, using Babe. I have proof." "Your proof was fabricated," Jackie roared, standing with Babe still in his arms. "I should have known. You've been jealous of my happiness since the day I met her. I saved your reputation, your company, your daughter's future. You destroyed the best thing that ever happened to us." Jackie's voice echoed through the mansion. "Get out of my house. Get out of my life. You're fired. You can't fire me. I own 40% of... Watch me." Jackie's voice carried the authority that had built his empire. "Security will escort you out. Your belongings will be mailed to you. Never contact me or my family again." After Richard left, Jackie held his sobbing daughter and made a vow that burned in his chest like fire. He would find Serena Rose if it took the rest of his life. He would beg her forgiveness, explain Richard's betrayal, and prove that their love was worth fighting for. But across the country, in a small mountain town where she'd found work at a local nursery, Serena stood among rows of flowers with her hand resting on her growing belly. At 4 months pregnant, she could no longer hide the evidence of the love she'd shared with Jackie. "Are you going to tell the father?" her new friend Emma asked gently as they arranged bouquets for the town's harvest festival. "He made his choice," Serena replied, her voice steady despite the tears that always threatened. "He chose his world over ours. I won't force our child into a life where they're seen as a mistake." That night, Serena wrote a letter she would never send, her hand moving across the paper as her heart poured out its pain. "My dearest Jackie, I hope you and Babe are happy. I hope you found someone worthy of your empire, someone who can stand beside you in your glittering world without embarrassing you. I will always love you both, but I understand now that some chasms are too wide for love to bridge. Our child will know they were conceived in love, even if that love couldn't survive the truth. Forever yours, Serena." She sealed the letter in a box with pressed flowers from their garden walks and the pregnancy tests that could have changed everything. Someday, maybe their child would want to know about the father who'd owned the world but lost his heart to a simple flower girl. But what Serena didn't know was that at that very moment, Jackie was in his car driving toward her hometown, following a lead from a private investigator, with little Babe asleep in the back seat and hope burning fierce and desperate in his chest. Chapter 6. Love Conquers All. True love doesn't end with "I'm sorry." It begins with "I choose you" again and again, through every storm life brings. The mountain town of Willowbrook felt like stepping into a fairy tale as Jackie drove down the main street, his heart hammering with desperate hope. 8 months had passed since he'd first looked into Serena's eyes at Rosemary's Cafe, and now he was racing against time to save the greatest love of his life. "Daddy, look!" It's like Serena's flower pictures come to life. Babe pressed her face against the car window, pointing at the gardens that lined every street, every storefront blooming with the kind of natural beauty Serena had always dreamed of creating. "It is, Princess," Jackie replied, his voice thick with emotion. She found her paradise. The private investigator had tracked Serena to Mountain View Nursery, a sprawling flower farm on the edge of town. As Jackie parked outside the white picket fence, his breath caught at the sight before him. Serena stood among rows of sunflowers, her chestnut hair catching the golden afternoon light, her hands gentle as she tended the plants with the same love he remembered. But she was different now, her figure fuller, more radiant, glowing with a beauty that made his heart stop. She was pregnant. "Oh my God," Jackie whispered, the pieces falling into place. "Serena." "Daddy, why are you crying?" Babe asked, but her own eyes had found Serena among the flowers. "Because sometimes happiness is so big it has to overflow," Jackie managed, tears streaming down his face. Babe didn't wait for permission. She burst from the car and ran through the nursery gates, her voice carrying across the field like music. "Serena! Flower Mama! I found you!" Serena spun around at the sound, her face transforming from shock to overwhelming joy as Babe launched herself into her arms. Jackie watched from the car as his daughter covered Serena's face with kisses, both of them crying and laughing simultaneously. "My precious flower fairy," Serena whispered, holding Babe tight. "I've missed you so much it hurt to breathe. I knew Daddy would find you. I knew it. He's been sad every single day, and he fired the mean man who made you go away." Serena's eyes found Jackie over Babe's head, and the look that passed between them contained 8 months of love, loss, and desperate longing. Jackie approached slowly, as if she might disappear like a mirage if he moved too quickly. "Hello, Serena," he said softly, his voice breaking on her name. "Hello, Jackie," she replied, her own voice trembling with barely contained emotion. They stood 2 feet apart, Babe between them like a bridge, the air electric with everything they needed to say. "You're pregnant," Jackie said, wonder and love filling his voice. 5 months, Serena admitted, her hand moving protectively to her rounded belly. "I tried to tell you that night you came back from London, but you never came. I thought I heard you on the phone, talking about taking money and disappearing. I thought Richard was right about you." "Richard?" Serena's face hardened with understanding. "He came to my apartment. Told me you wanted him to pay me to leave, that you were embarrassed by me, that I would never belong in your world." Jackie's face went white with rage and grief. "That monster! Serena, I never sent him. I never wanted you to leave. I've been searching for you every day since you disappeared." "The gala," Serena continued, tears flowing freely now. "He sent me an invitation, said you wanted me there. But when I arrived, you gave that speech about your late wife, about maintaining standards, about some loves being irreplaceable." "My God," Jackie breathed. "You heard that speech and thought I was talking about you. Weren't you?" "I was talking about Catherine because the board expected it, because it was the anniversary of her death, because Richard had arranged for me to honor her memory at that specific gala." Jackie stepped closer, his hands reaching for hers. "But Serena, Catherine was my past. You are my future. You and Babe and—" His voice broke as he looked at her belly. "Our child." "Our child," Serena repeated, fresh tears spilling over. "I was so afraid you wouldn't want our baby, want you." Jackie cupped her face in his hands, thumbs gently wiping away her tears. Serena rose. "You are carrying my child, the woman I love beyond reason, the mother Babe has been praying for every night. You are everything I want. But your world, those people at the gala, can go to hell," Jackie said fiercely. "My world is you. My world is Babe. My world is this family we're building together. Everything else is just business." Babe tugged on both their hands, her face serious with 7-year-old wisdom. "Are you going to get married now? Because the baby needs a mommy and daddy who love each other, and I need my flower mama to come home." Jackie dropped to one knee right there among the sunflowers, pulling out the simple ring he'd carried every day since she'd disappeared. Serena rose. "I've made terrible mistakes. I let fear and doubt poison the most beautiful thing in my life. But I promise you this. If you'll have me, I will spend every day proving that you are my choice, my partner, my equal in every way that matters. Jackie, I don't want to rescue you or take care of you like you're fragile. I want to build a life with you where we take care of each other. I want to invest in your flower shop as your business partner, not your benefactor. I want our children to grow up knowing that love is about choosing each other every single day. Serena looked down at the man who owned an empire but was kneeling in the dirt among her flowers, his eyes full of love and desperate hope. She thought of all the pain they'd endured, all the lies that had nearly destroyed them, and the child growing inside her who deserved parents who fought for their love. "Yes," she whispered, then louder, "Yes, Jackie Robinson. I choose you too. I choose us. I choose this beautiful, complicated, imperfect love that's stronger than any obstacle." Jackie slipped the ring onto her finger as Babe cheered and danced among the sunflowers. When he stood, Serena threw her arms around his neck and kissed him with all the passion of 8 months of love and loss and hope reborn. "I love you," she murmured against his lips. "I love you and Babe and this crazy life we're going to build together." "And I love you," Jackie replied, his hand moving to rest on her belly where their child grew. "All 3 of you. Forever." As the sun set over the flower fields, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink, the Robinson family stood complete at last. Babe chatted excitedly about all the things she wanted to teach her new sibling, while Jackie and Serena planned a future that honored both their dreams. 6 months later, Serena Rose Robinson walked down the aisle of the small church in Willowbrook, surrounded by flowers she'd grown herself, toward the man who'd chosen love over everything else. Babe scattered jasmine petals before them, her face glowing with joy as she finally got the family she'd prayed for. Richard Montgomery watched the wedding announcement from his empty office. His empire of lies crumbled around him. But Jackie and Serena didn't spare him a thought. They were too busy building something beautiful from the ashes of what others had tried to destroy. On their wedding night, as Serena's flower shop, now Robinson and Rose Gardens, bloomed with success born of both their efforts, Jackie held his pregnant wife and daughter close, surrounded by the jasmine-scented love that had conquered every obstacle. "Daddy," Babe whispered sleepily, "do you think fairy tales really do come true?" Jackie looked at Serena, radiant with love and new life, then at his daughter, secure in the knowledge that she was cherished beyond measure. "I know they do, Princess," he replied, kissing both his girls goodnight. "I know they do." And in a world where love had triumphed over lies, where trust had been rebuilt stronger than before, and where a family had been born not from perfection, but from choosing each other through every storm, Jackie Robinson finally understood that the greatest fortune he'd ever built was the one that grew in the garden of Serena's heart.